Show me the way well. Show me the way home. Just a man, so wonderful.
Got a little out of hand. I'm very.
Hey, I love you, buddy, but you blew it.
You done messed up, Aaron!
You blew it!
Listen to me, you deaf fuck. I offered you a chance when we could have done something, and you blew it!
Can't rest this weary soul. Can't carry on. Show me the way home.
Hello, humans. Welcome back to the Slackline Quote of the Day broadcast. You are here with the boss.
The boss is coming.
That's a made-up dumb fairy tale name, you
We are chatting quotes from around the world. Today we are bringing you a fictional quote, and that brought to us today. Who is our sponsor today there, Greg? Sponsor today, Parallel Universe Jumper. Told your wife that you think her mom is hot? Sent that disastrous text you'll never recover from? Just looking for something new? Forget regret with the new Parallel Universe Jumper that will automatically send you to a new universe where you can kill your doppelganger and live their life instead. And that brings us to our quote today from one of my favorite movies, Black Dynamite, starring Michael J. White. That quote is, "You done fucked up now." That's from Black Dynamite, the character himself from the self-titled film. Really a hilarious movie. Recommend anybody goes and checks that out. That quote is coming at us today because I went and done fucked up. I've done something stupid, and if you follow the show at all, you might correlate my rant about ghosting and respectfulness, douchebags versus nice guys from a couple days ago, and then the fact that there was no show yesterday might lead you to believe that, done fucked up. You know, there's this girl that I was kind of really liking. I was starting to see some of the familiar signs of ghosting, which I've been, vocal about my hatred of. And actually what set me off was that she was too. I kind of set off on her with a big, long, regrettable text. And I was wrong, and I'm an idiot, and and whatever was going to go on has a slim chance of recovering. And that's the way it goes sometimes, but it's tough, it's tough, especially when it's with people that you really like. When you do something stupid, you say something stupid, and you just want to take it back, like, immediately, and you can't, because it's left your fucking idiot mouth. Or your fingertips, in this case. It's hard for people to forget the things that you say, It's hard for people to move on from a little dip into craziness. And so, this will probably end up being just one of those situations that I look back on going, woulda, shoulda, coulda, if you had only just not been a fucking idiot. And either not said this or made a move at this time, or, should have completely left it alone. Like, whatever the reason is for something falling apart, you're always kind of left with a hanging feeling of like, you fucking moron. Like, why did you do that? Why did you say that? it's not a really tough pill to swallow when it's just like random dates or something like that, and it's just, you know, or single Tinder date or something, and you throw out, like, you say something that maybe you would never otherwise have said, or comes out wrong, like whatever the case is. It's just something that doesn't reflect you, and it causes them to think about you not as a compatible partner for whatever they're doing, for whatever they're wanting, and that's it. Like, there's not a lot of ways to pull that type of thing back on course. But when it's just kind of those random people, it's not so much of a huge deal. It really sucks though when it's people that, you know, you actually genuinely connect with, or you know, people that you know, God forbid, love. Like, I have loved 3 people in my life, and one of them was a high school romance that dipped into the first few years of university, and I honestly don't really have any regrets from my relationship with her. She was a great person, still is a great person, very smart and beautiful, and she is engaged, I think, and she's doing great, and I'm happy for her. And you know, we left things on fine terms as like a high school romance that had kind of run its course, and we had both, you know, moved on, or were looking for ways to move on with our lives, and kind of mutually agreed to part ways. And we did have a bit of a relapse that, you know what, I do regret, actually, now that I think about it, because I hurt her feelings big time about a year after we broke up, and she was thinking that we might be getting back together, and I decided that I didn't want that, and yeah, I think that hurt her feelings a lot, and so I was wrong. I do regret part of that relationship. I don't regret anything about, you know, her, but yeah, I definitely regret that moment, and I apologized to her enough then. But you know, the second person I loved was an unrequited love. Some people don't believe in unrequited love. I definitely think that you can be in love with somebody who doesn't love you back. I think that person needs to have some sort of feelings for you, and you know, in order for that to actually be a real sort of love. But I mean, as somebody who's been in love a few times, I know that what I was feeling for her was love, and I think that she did have feelings for me that approached that at some point, but you know, regrettable moments all along the way probably led to that not being a thing. You know, she was a person I knew from high school too, but we didn't really hang out all that much until afterwards. We found out we lived close to each other and started hanging out, and I knew I really, really was crazy about her right away, but I didn't want to jump right into something like that again. And you know, I had just gotten out of that and halfway through university, and we were both, you know, everybody's like that, right? And so I think things were left unsaid for too long, or moves were left unmade for too long, and eventually I did tell her how I felt, and that led to a whole confusing situation that resulted in us not being nearly as close anymore. And so yeah, there are a lot of regrettable moments within that too, and they're not moments that you're like, I could have been with that person now if it hadn't been for this. It's not really about that. It's regretting maybe changing the dynamics of things that shouldn't have been changed. You know, losing a person in your life that was important to you regardless of romantic feelings. And yeah, ultimately losing a friend. But then it gets hard to regret that, because out of my pain and the the destruction of that whole issue, I met another person who I still believe to this day was the love of my life. And she was the best thing that ever happened to me. And like a lot of idiots that end up with a woman who is way too good for them, I took her for granted and let her slip away. And I regret it every day. And that's not one specific thing either. It's a buildup of things, a multitude of decisions that weren't or were made that slowly eroded her love for me. And there are a lot of different reasons for that that aren't really the point of this. The point is that I'm not really sure what the point is other than to just vent and reflect on these things and wonder why and how they happened. But in between those people, in between those major things, there are minor things too, casual things that I think are kind of funny. That you there are a lot of shoulda, woulda, coulda moments with just passing potential romances, little glimpses into different sort of parallel universes, like our sponsors. It's fun to think about, like, what if I had kissed that person when I should have kissed that person? What would have changed in my life? There was a girl through college that I really had a fleeting connection with, and we probably would have had a really fiery short romance had I not been a wimp about it, for lack of a better term, and just like made a move on her when it made sense. There's another thing way back in high school before I started dating my girlfriend from that time period. I was really into this other girl for a long time through most of high school, and I was kind of finally approaching the ability to talk about it at like grade 11 and tell her how I was feeling and all that type of shit. And she kind of rejected me, but then didn't, and she kissed me, and I wasn't really sure how to react to it, so I kind of just didn't, and drove her home I was driving her home, and that was what we were doing before she kissed me. And it was, I look back on that and go, like, there are so many moments when she was obviously trying to position herself for me to kiss her back, and I didn't. And why didn't I do that? And what would have changed in my life? Like, at that point, way back then, it's 16, 17 years old. That probably would have completely changed the course of my life in a weird way. And then there's the regret of some people that maybe you feel didn't give you like a chance enough, I remember this one girl that I met while I was walking my dog, and actually my long-term girlfriend and I were in between our moment of rocky back and forth and not sure if we're dating, broken up for a while, and then we were going to start dating again later on. But in this time period I met this other girl, and we had spent a lot of time together, mostly walking our dogs. Finally set up like a date with her, an actual date, like outside of just our dog dates, after a few weeks of just walking the dogs. And she casually mentions her boyfriend that she hadn't mentioned the whole time. And then I asked her about it, and she tells me, well, he's not really my boyfriend. They're kind of on I'm not really sure what they are sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But I had just gone through this thing with my friend that had left me pretty guarded against ending up in a quote unquote friend zone type scenario. I know that's all bullshit, but like in a scenario of like, look, I'm attracted to this person. I want to be clear about because I don't want to be in that situation again. I want to be clear from the get-go I want something different from her. I want something different from you. And so when she told me that she wasn't actually sort of with this person, I made a move on her, and she kind of brushed it off and was like, no, please, like, I don't really, I can't really go down that road. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but that's where I'm at, and so I can't really be around this sort of scenario anymore, and sort of left it alone for a while. And then they like officially broke up, I guess. She calls me back. We go out. She asked me out for New Year's with all of her friends and all this type of stuff. And then I go to kiss her at New Year at midnight, and she's disappeared like 15 seconds before midnight. And I kind of wander around, and I finally see her, and I look at her, and she gives me like a shake of her head, and I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me here. And so, I tried to leave with my dignity, but it turns out her clutch was in my coat, because she had asked me to hold on to it. And I went back into the club, and I looked at her, and I gave her her clutch, and I looked her in the face, and I said, you have like your friends, lifelong friends and family, like all around you, and you have me holding on to your clutch, like that means something, okay? And I just like gave it back to her and left. And that was really like the last time I saw her or talked to her. So like the regrettable thing there is like, I feel like that she didn't give me a shot. You feel like you have a connection with somebody, and you're like, and I felt like there was no real lapses in judgment by me or things I would have said that would have turned her off or anything like that. She was purely just kind of confused with where she was, I think. But it sucks, to not get that chance with somebody, regardless of what the scenario is, because the truth is, the times that I've found love anyways, it's not been in ideal scenarios. My first girlfriend, she had moved from a totally different school just for the grade 12 year. And apparently had some personal problems back at her old school, and had zero, and because of those personal problems, had zero interest with getting involved in any boys at this new school, and within a few months was dating me, because I don't know why. And it wasn't like I was some guy that could kind of just have my pick of girls. Like, she was my first actual girl I pursued at school, and had the nuts to actually ask out. And the second girl, the girl that was unrequited, I mean, obviously, that it wasn't an ideal scenario either, and that's why it didn't end up actually happening. There were a lot of really great arguments for us to not be together. We were part of a core of a big group of friends. She had previously dated one of my buddies. There's just, we went to school together, saw each other all the time, just like a lot of really terrible ideas. And then on top of it all, we were great friends, and you don't want to lose those things. And so it didn't end up working out. But, again, like, I do feel like there was, feelings returned from her. She just didn't want to act on them. I wanted to act on them. So again, like, those moments, like, again, you don't know when love is going to hit. And she chose not to pursue it, and I chose to pursue it, and made a big fool of myself. And yeah, the third time with my most previous girlfriend, she was actually dating a guy when we met, and I mean, nothing happened between us, but they broke up, a few weeks after that, and we were dating pretty swiftly. And she was in a space where she wanted to have her freedom and be her own person, because she had been dating this guy for a few years. And I was totally for that too. I had just gone through this bullshit with my friend, and I totally understand and think that people need to find out who they are on their own, especially if they spend most of their lives, in a partnership with somebody. I think it's really important for people to go out and do their thing. And, we just couldn't help it. We couldn't help but want to be around each other. As little sense as it made, and as poorly timed as it was, you can't help it. And in certain instances at the beginning, the reason why it's so rocky is because you're both not sure about whether or not you want to jump into something like that. And we both had moments of, I really like this person, but no. And then eventually just said, fuck it, let's do this. But then I done fucked up. And so maybe that's where we'll leave it for today. You have been listening to the Slackline quote of the day. That quote again from Black Dynamite. You done fucked up now. That is Black Dynamite. And it is brought to us by Parallel Universe Jumper. Forget regret with new Parallel Universe Jumper. Thanks again to Crooked Spies and Aksel Boss today for providing some of the tunes. And don't forget to follow the Slackline on Instagram at the.slack.line and on Twitter at slackline_radio. YouTube and iTunes at the Slackline podcast. This again is The Boss.
The boss is coming!
That's a made-up dumb fairy tale name, you
Thanks again for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Could never be alone. Well, I guess I'm well adjusted, but the pains they never leave, except for my feet. I keep my arms in my suitcases and my shoulders halfway down in the ground. There's definitely something cooking. This guy keeps on looking. I hear people shouting your name. I hear people shouting your name. People shouting your name. People shouting your name.